So the reason I go to these programs that were in the Big 12 title race for most of last season, Drake, that won't be in it this year is kind of a law of averages play of sort. BYU was 4-2 in one possession games. Typically teams are, going to have a season where they're really good in those games, followed by a season where they're not as good in those games. Colorado, meanwhile, is losing 2 top 10 picks from its roster who were basically their entire team. Frankly, I can see a world where neither of these teams contends for the Big 12. Would you care to prove me wrong?
BYU will certainly be in the top 3 of the Big 12 come the last week of the season, and I can explain why that's the fact later. I believe Colorado, out of those who you've mentioned, would be the school that will drop off. Reason being, their starting quarterback is gone. That starting quarterback is a top 10 draft pick. Their best wide receiver is gone. Their best corner is gone. He's a kid who could be drafted at either position. You've now lost 3 of your top players in the form of 2 physical human bodies. How will you perform post that? We don't know yet. Will Colorado be bad? I don't think so. Will they be a Big 12 title contender? I cannot say yes yet. Now, part of this, Spencer, we have to understand is if you're a Big 12 fan and you sit here and you hear me or Spencer or Josh Pate or anybody else say that I think Texas Tech could take a step back or Baylor could unexpectedly take a step back or TCU or BYU, this is by and large a product of the Big 12. This is what the conference is. Last season, when I picked Utah to win the Big 12 championship, no one batted an eye. When I picked Kansas to win the Big 12 championship, no one batted an eye. It was like, okay, yeah, I mean, one of those programs.
What a fool you are. I mean, what foolish picks there. You foolish, goofy, blonde-haired boy. I mean, you're crazy.
And I'm clickbaity, I guess. And then I said that Arizona State would go 3-9, and then you flip the entire script on what happened there. So by saying that these schools that are predicted to be top-end Big 12 preseason won't match up to the expectation, we're not insane. We're not trying to lie to you. I'm not trying to blow hot air up your skirt and be like, oh, well, this is the year Houston wins national championship. No, I'm not saying anything world-beating here. What I'm saying is I do believe Colorado takes a step back without Shedeur Sanders. Sue me. He's a Heisman-caliber quarterback. The guy that won the Heisman was on their roster. He's gone, too. They're not going to be as good as they were last season, at least for the first 3 or 4 games as they figure it out. I do also think very high standard for Baylor. I'm not sure if the Bears are going to match it. Very high standard for TCU and Texas Tech. And those Texas schools that are supposed to take that next step next season based on where they were last year, can they do it? I believe at least 2 of the 3 will end up disappointing. One of them will end up below 500, possibly firing their coach at the end of next season. Why? Law of averages. Welcome to the Big 12. Who's going to step into the place of one of those 3? Maybe West Virginia. Maybe UCF. I cannot, in this conference, confidently say to you that Colorado will be better next year. They would be insane to say Colorado will be better without Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter.
I think you're spot on the bus. I do still wonder about BYU. I was...
Why? Why would you ever wonder about BYU?
Famously, perhaps, or infamously, for BYU fans listening or watching out there, I was not in on the Cougars after their win against Kansas State. They blew them out. It was 38-9 or whatever it was.
Middle 8, special teams, yeah.
Yeah, it just felt like, this is not a sustainable formula for winning in the long run. But lo and behold, they just kept on going. But you go back to the Utah game, they're 1 non-flag away from being 9-3 instead of 10-2. And look, I'm not making a
Oklahoma State miracle at the end of Oklahoma State as
yes,
well.
A miracle at the end of that game as well. And by the way, I am not making a statement one way or the other on the holding call. That's just all in the past. I'm just saying an official threw the flag. I understand how.
You, Mark Harlan, truther.
He absolutely could have not thrown the flag as well. Like it's just one of those things that went BYU's way. So I wonder if that catches up with them, even though they do have Jake Retzlaff. And I think BYU has a solid core of returners, but I also am not in love with BYU's schedule. I mean, they've got to play Utah, of course. Yeah, they get them at home. They've got to go at Iowa State. They've got to go at Texas Tech.
Yeah, and they get a bye week in between those. I mean, it ended up they're going to have a soft landing at the end of the season. Their last 4 are not that bad, and their first 6, they open with Colorado, who has those question marks. They have a very easy I love their schedule. It starts easy.
They have like Drake. They have like a 70-day stretch where they don't play a home game.
I think they play one home game.
Or they play one home game. Yeah, and it's against Utah.
I agree with that. I do agree. But they, again,
Who's had that scheduling mishap and wound up in a conference championship game?
Riddle me this. They open easy, they end easy. Their two hardest games have a bye week in between them. And I don't hate that if I'm a BYU fan. They think they got screwed over. I read that schedule. I don't hate it compared to some others.
I do think that I agree there.
Number 9 on ESPN preseason rankings. Maybe they could set a step back to number 15, to number 20. You're still in the Big 12 title hunt. L.J. Martin, Chase Roberts, Keelan Merritt, Harrison Taggart, man. They're good.
Taggart's a good player. Really underrated player in this conference. He's good.
Tyler Batty being gone is not great, but they bring back a whole lot. They bring back a whole freaking lot. But yeah, the only point that I'm really like, you know what, Spencer? Dang, you're good at your job here, is that 4-2 record in one-score games. Usually the season after, that flips on its head, and you're
even if you just regress to 500.
Yeah.
And if you play more one-score game, like you're just never going to have a 2-year stretch, at least not that I've been made aware of since I've been covering college football. You don't have a 2-year stretch where you're going 8-4 in one score or 10-2 in one-score games. Like, you've got to find a way to win even more. Like, half of your games last year were one-possession contests. You needed borderline miracles against Oklahoma State at home and Utah on the road. Utah is going to be much improved, and I know BYU fans won't like hearing that. I just think this BYU team, I like their core more than Colorado's. It is far more trustworthy. We are in agreement there. I just think BYU is a 7-8 win team this year, and I think Colorado is fighting for bowl eligibility because they go from a Heisman caliber quarterback and the Heisman Trophy winner on both sides of the ball to Caden Salter, who regressed at Liberty this past season in Conference USA, and he's going to suddenly make the jump. I don't know that Colorado can give him an offensive line. Shedeur was, a magic eraser sometimes for the Buffs. I don't think it's crazy to suggest that Colorado could, in this Big 12 with all the depth, that they could miss a bowl game.
I don't know if I'm willing to go that far because their coaching staff. Because
I'm just saying it's not a crazy proposition. Like, if you go out and say Iowa State's going to miss a bowl game, you sound crazy. But if you say that about Colorado, I might not be all the way there because I do think Coach Prime can coach more than people want to give him credit for. But I don't think that that's the craziest suggestion. Or saying ASU is going to miss a bowl game. Like, no. Barring massive injuries, I don't think those teams would. Colorado, I could see it, and nothing special would have to happen.
Sure, yeah. I can't. You make it tough to disagree with you. You've played it really down the middle there with they could or they couldn't. Very well said, Spencer. I think in the case of BYU, where I would push a bit here is you said they could be a 7 or 8 win team. Guess who won 8 games last year? Kansas State. And they were in the thick of the Big 12 title hunt in the last weekend of the year. BYU could win 8 games, and because of the nature of this conference, still be a Big 12 championship caliber team. I would consider Kansas State a Big 12 championship caliber team last season. They were 8-4. BYU can go 8-4 and still be in the thick of that hunt in the last week, and that may very well be what happens.
Look at that. Drake isn't half bad at his job. Sometimes, every now and then, once in a while, 1 in 1,000 chance either. Because that's a pretty good point.
Today's show brought to you by Fabric. I've been trying to tell you very recently that Fabric is one of our new valued sponsors of the Locked On College Network. Life moves fast, especially when you have a family. One day you're watching your kids take their first steps. Before you know it, they're off to college. That's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. With Fabric, apply for term life insurance, and you can be covered in under 10 minutes. In many cases, no health exam is required. Peace of mind, affordable coverage beyond life insurance. They offer free digital wills and access to investment accounts to help you plan for your children's future. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Insurance Assurance Company. Not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. That is Fabric.